Welcome friends to another r/entitled parents video. As always, if you enjoy these videos, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. And our first story of the day is by BinX0, entitled Karen Thinks She's Entitled to a Refund. So I had sold an item on Mercari and Karen bought it. A book for $15 and free shipping, media mail. It was a very nice book. I had printed the shipping label within 24 hours and shipped within 48 hours. Around 36 hours later, 2.5 days after the order, Karen sends me a message saying, "Cancel order, my son ordered it." I say, "Hi, I'm sorry to hear that this was ordered by mistake. However, I can't issue a refund as the item's already in transit and expected to arrive on date here." Karen says, "But I didn't order it. It's fraudulent. I'll sue you if you don't refund my money. My husband's a lawyer." I say, "How did your son get access to your account? Don't you have security on your devices?" She says, "It doesn't matter, just refund me." I say, "I can't. If you aren't happy with it, please return it when you receive it. This involves printing the new prepaid label and taking it to your local post office." She says, "I don't understand why you can't refund me. It's only $15. I say, "I don't understand why I should have to be out the money, and additionally the cost of the shipping label, ship on my own, as well as the book." The Karen says, "Well, my son ordered it by mistake, and if you have a heart, you would know it's hard to be a single mom." I say, "I thought you had a husband that was a lawyer." After that, I never heard from her again, and 3 days after delivered, I got auto-rated and got my money. Blocked her so fast after that. If you sold something for $15 and you found yourself in this situation, is there ever an event where you would say, "Okay, just go ahead and keep it. Don't bother about sending it back"? Or considering it's $15, is it always important to just say, "Okay, you can print a prepaid label and send it back to me when you get the chance"? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Raichu Rose, entitled Mother and Her Daughter Wear a White Dress to My Sister's Wedding. My sister, aka bride, got married yesterday. Yay! However, groom's aunt Karen, 50-ish female, was not a very pleasant guest. A little over a week ago, bride got a text from Karen asking if her little girl, 8-year-old female, could be the flower girl. Bride and groom have been engaged for over a year and asked groom's niece, 2 years old, to be the flower girl way back then. Karen and little girl live super far away from groom's family, so they only met the couple twice in little girl's life. Groom's niece, however, is very close to my sister and her uncle. My sister was a little peeved that some woman she barely knows asked her to change her flower girl a week before her wedding and obviously said no, it's too late. A few days later, bride gets another text from Karen saying she bought little girl her dress and she's just so excited. The picture attached showed a little girl wearing a white dress. Not a dress with white on it, no. Completely white dress with lace at the top and a white bow around the waist. Trashy, but it's not the girl's fault. Bride went from peeved to fairly irritated at this point. Then comes the wedding day. We already knew that little girl would be in white, her mom's rude, let's just ignore them. But oh boy, we were not expecting Karen to be wearing a white lace dress. A grown woman in her 50s not only demanding her kid be in the wedding a week before the big day and buying her a white dress, but also wearing a white lace dress herself? I offered to accidentally spill red wine on her, but my sister said she was content with watching everyone at the reception ignore her and talk crap about her. It's one thing to ask about the flower girl situation and suggest, "Hey, could my little girl be the flower girl? You know, maybe somehow a week before the wedding, if you didn't have that planned, it would work out." But to intentionally buy them outfits and yourself outfits that go against the norms and what's expected of you and then show up like that, that's not going to be a revenge against anybody. More so, it's just going to open everybody's eyes to how awful you're being. I hope it legitimately was the situation where she's off sitting in a corner and everybody else is on the other side of the room going, "Oh my god, did you see what she's wearing? How could she think that's okay? Blah blah blah." Our next story is by Maid Boxer. Entitled Parent Ignores Her Kid at a Print Shop, Kid Loses Finger. I worked for a research facility which funds clinics handling patients for our area of expertise. To celebrate our first completely funded site, we decided to create t-shirts to commemorate our success. I was tasked to design the tees and have them printed and produced for our next conference. I secured a local printer to produce the shirts, and when they were completed, I went to the printers to pick them up. When I got there and produced my invoice, they needed to prepare and wrap them, which would take a few minutes, and I could wait in the lobby. While waiting, a woman, entitled parent, and her son, around 5, came in for her order for a family reunion. She barely paid attention to the staff, and when told to wait, she got on her phone, pretty much ignoring her son who was running all around the lobby screaming to the top of his lungs. He then decided to run behind the counter towards the back where the printing machines were. The counter clerk tried to get the woman's attention, but she just ignored the clerk and continued talking on her phone. The clerk did successfully get the kid to go back into the lobby, but she was called to the back to pick up my package. The kid took this as his chance to shoot behind the counter and went running into the back. I thought one of the staff would catch him, but they were swamped with orders and just didn't see him run by. But the time someone spotted him, it was too late. There was a loud, high-pitched scream and crying, and then there was a loud commotion, and it appeared everyone was screaming, except the entitled parent who was still on her phone, oblivious to the chaos coming from the back. That's when another staff member came out carrying the crying kid and holding a bloody towel around his hand, and screaming to the receptionist to call 911. Only then was when the entitled parent turned around to see her son and then screamed at the staff member, "What did you do to my son?" The staff member stated that somehow the kid got to the back, ran up to one of the working machines, and stuck his hand in between the hot blades and it sliced off one of his fingers. The entitled parent started screaming at the staff member and the clerk, berating them and threatening to sue them while still ignoring her son, still in the staff member's arms, who's trying to stop the bleeding. That's when I, a nurse, come up and assess the situation and got something to slow down the bleeding and try to save the mostly severed finger. As the ambulance pulled up, the entitled parent was actually still on the phone telling whomever she was talking to what had happened to her son, and she still hadn't checked or even touched her son. The staff member transferred the boy to the EMTs and they put him in the ambulance and took him to the hospital. The jerk of a parent actually waited and demanded her package before she even attempted to follow the ambulance to the hospital. A month later, when I went back to the printers for another order of teas, I had to ask if they ever heard what happened to the little boy. He did lose his finger, and the entitled mother was charged with neglect due to testimony by the staff of the shop. Didn't find out much more than that, but I do hope that entitled parent didn't regain custody of that poor kid. Anybody that ever tries to peddle the, "well, you're not a parent, you wouldn't understand" argument should look at this story and realize it's not a universal saying, that's for sure. The definition for the word neglect is fail to care for properly, or the state or fact of being uncared for. In this case, it's obviously neglect, but it feels like it's so much more than that, and I don't know what term to even really classify this as. This next story is by SnooMuffins9396. What? Are you complaining that your daughter's safe? I used to work at a high school. I loved it. I would assist in classrooms, regular ed and special needs, make sure my troops got off the bus at the start and back on the bus at the end of each day, proctor tests, and anything else needed. Loved it. One day while I was working in a humanities classroom as an aide, I was in this particular class for one certain young lady with some physical difficulties. Emma is a very sweet girl. The only thing she needed from me was assistance to get up and walk if needed. Well, this day, the fire alarm goes off. None of the other 3 teachers were told of a drill, and they never scheduled during any of the lunch periods. This class was during lunch. One teacher opens the hall door and smells and sees a little smoke. He turns around and in a very loud voice tells everyone, "Drop everything, this isn't a drill, go." One teacher begins walking our class out the nearest exit. We had over 70 students in this class. Another teacher's waiting to walk out behind the last student. The male teacher comes to me and Emma. He offers to carry Emma outside, but she's starting to panic, probably worried about getting trampled in the hall. I suggested that we transport Emma to one of the teacher's chairs, wheels, and I'll push her out that way. Then once we're outside and safe, she can stay seated. As soon as Emma and I hit the hallway, she really starts to panic. The smoke is getting thicker. So I just tell her to hang on to the armrests because we're getting out now. I practically walk at a very quick pace to get Emma out of the building and to the back of the parking lot. We're both winded, but safe. I make small talk with Emma to distract her and call over a few of her friends to keep her company while I check in with the rest of my class and teachers. Turns out it was a small fire in the kitchen. Minimal damage, just lots and lots of smoke. We're back in class within the hour. The next morning, as I'm waiting for our kiddos to arrive, Emma's mom drops her off, but she doesn't leave. I didn't notice her, but one of my coworkers taps me and says that Emma's mom would like to speak with me. I'm thinking, it's no problem. I would never let anything happen to Emma. But boy, was I wrong. Emma's mom starts chastising me, telling me, "You terrified my little girl." And "How could you push her out in a chair in front of the whole school?" I'm struck silent. Then she tells everyone in earshot that Mrs. OP is a danger to the student body and she'll make sure that I can't do this ever again. During first period, I'm called to the principal's office, really, to explain what happened. The principal asks Emma's mom how she expected the staff to act during an emergency. Emma's mom paused and answered, "Well, next time you should let us know during drop-off so that Emma isn't alarmed. Or you could just allow Emma to wait in the classroom until it's over. That's what our last school did." The principal gave me a side glance, then says, "You're complaining because Mrs. OP saved your daughter?" Emma's mom says, "Yes, and because she scared her." The principal excused me back to class. I actually got a special recognition citation for going above and beyond. Later that day, Emma apologized to me. I told her to never worry about it, that I was sorry if she was scared, but so was I. This could have been catastrophic, and everyone was very lucky. It seems to me that the mother had some kind of misconception here that this was a drill, saying, "Oh yeah, just let us know about it when we drop her off. Then we won't have to worry about this being out of nowhere," or something like that. Either that or she was literally saying, "Yeah, next time there's an unforeseen emergency, could you let me know in advance so that we can just, prepare for that, be ready for it. No big deal. If you're gonna have a fire, can you at least tell me about it before you go and do it?" And our final story of the day is by Tech Bunnyo, entitled Hockey Mon Gets Karma. This was years ago now. My son's been asked to ref in a hockey game, his first time, so as a proud mom, I hung around. This was House League. In other words, less than 1/1,000,000th of a chance any would make the NHL. This was a Christmas tournament, so the teams would play several games each. During the game, the home team had a very obvious beginner skater. He skated towards one of the corners and put up both of his hands to use against the wall to stop himself. Unfortunately, he was hanging onto his stick with both hands, and there was another player between him and the boards. It was a light hit, and the player most certainly was not injured. The rules of the game were that any hit from behind, accidental or otherwise, resulted in a 5-minute penalty and a game misconduct. The skater felt horrible, but understood the rules. Cue the entitled parent. One of the parents started chanting "The reffing sucks" over and over. Other parents joined her. After this went on for about a minute, I happened to catch her eye and asked how the reffing sucked. And her brilliant reply was, "The reffing sucks." I finally told her that the ref, it was only a 14-year-old boy, was my son. And she finally sat down. In the next period, another beginner skater from their team simply lost his footing and fell. A player from the opposite team was close, but in no way had interfered. The boy stayed on the ice and my son skated over, called for the team's trainer to come, and waited. Cue entitled parent again. This time she literally stood on the boards, hung over the glass, and looked at my son and said, "You're not going to call that?" My son then conferred with the linesman who'd been the closest and had actually seen the kid fall on his own. My son did not address the entitled parent, and instead skated over to the bench to talk to the coach and explain what the linesman had seen. My son was watching the puck near the goal at the time and hadn't seen it. I was so proud. He then skated to the correct face-off, blew his whistle, and the game started again. The game ended up tied, and because it was a tournament game, there was a shootout to determine the winner. And wouldn't you know it, but the entitled parent's son scored the winning goal. She looked in my direction and then said, "That's my son, he's going to be in the NHL." She then looked and faced me and said, "That's my son, he's going to be in the NHL." I ignored this, but when the third time came and she was absolutely nearly in my face saying it, I replied with, "Cool, maybe my son will be the ref." She completely lost it and started swearing. Several of the parents from the home team reported the antics to the person in charge of reffing, and she called me to corroborate the story, and then asked to speak to my son to ensure that he was okay in dealing with that type of abuse. The karma, the entire group of parents were banned from attending any more of their children's games. Side note, when I asked my son how he was doing having been verbally abused, he told me he barely heard it as he was focused on the game. I took him for ice cream. So let's be real, considering this is a house league, everybody in that game has less than 1/1,000,000th of a chance. But you know the one person that has a much greater chance of actually making it to the NHL? The person who's learning to referee the game at 14 years old hands-on. I have a ton of respect for the people who grow up bypassing actually playing it or being in these leagues to focus on refereeing it. And it takes some thick skin too, because everybody hates on the referees. So if I had a second hat, I'd take that off for them too. But with that being said, that's a wrap on another bunch of stories here today. As always, if you guys have any favorite videos of this bunch, let me know which one in the comments down below and why. And if you enjoyed the stories in general, if you could subscribe to this channel, it'd mean a lot to me. I make these videos daily, and it's by far and away the best way to support my channel. So no matter what you did, whether it was subscribing or liking, leaving a comment, I just appreciate the heck out of you guys. And as always, I'll be back tomorrow with even more stories right here on the Storytime channel.